There are lots of videos out there that give you advice on how to reduce wrist pain when doing push-ups, yoga poses, such as engaging more of your fingers, lat mobility and whatnot. And don't get me wrong, those might just be the solution to your wrist pain. But in this video, I want to talk about what is going on in the wrist itself and how to deal with it. These papers by Steinberg et al. In 1999 and Nance et al. In 2017 say that the most common causes of dorsal wrist pain during wrist weight-bearing activities such as push-ups, yoga, and Pilates poses are: number 1, occult dorsal ganglion cysts; number 2, scapho-lunate ligament partial tear or attenuation; and 3rd, dorsal carpal capsulitis. Huh? Scapho what lunate? Whack cow you, my wrist damn pain. But I guess if you speak Latin, you'd understand me perfectly. Simplex ipsum interest. Before I explain what those conditions mean, let's look at how perfect wrists move in wrist extension activities. These bones, called the scaphoid and lunate, are two bones in the wrist responsible for a lot of the stability in the wrist. To palpate or find the scaphoid bone, this thing that sticks out and the bone you feel inside this triangle, you're now holding the scaphoid bone. The bone next to that would be the lunate bone. When we extend our wrist, the two bones turn to face up and then glides downwards. If the wrist continues into slight radial deviation, these bones then turn to face the radius and glide towards the ulnar or pinky side. Muscles that lend stability to these two bones during wrist extension and radial deviation are abductor pollicis longus (APL), extensor carpi radialis longus (ECRL), and flexor carpi ulnaris (FCU). They work to supinate the midcarpal bones, tightening the volar, scaphoid-distal row, stabilizing the scaphoid. Now for a problematic wrist: occult dorsal ganglion cyst. Occult means hidden, dorsal means back of the wrist, ganglion in this case means an abnormal non-cancerous swelling on the ligament, and cyst means a sac containing liquid. So basically a hidden water balloon in the back of your wrist, although sometimes ganglion cysts can be visible. When you have a water balloon in your wrist, it can compress on certain structures and cause pain. Now how do we test it? We use the finger extension test. Hold your wrist in a flexed position, actively push or extend your ring and middle finger against resistance. This loads the radiocarpal joint. If it reproduces pain, then it is a positive test and there is a chance that you have an occult dorsal ganglion cyst causing your wrist pain. Another test to confirm would be an MRI or an ultrasound scan, which would look like this: the scaphoid bone, lunate bone, and the water balloon or the cyst. The second on the list was scapho-lunate ligament partial tear or attenuation. Scapho-lunate refers to the joint between these two bones. Ligament connects bones to bone. Partial tear is when the ligament is injured, possibly from trauma. Attenuation means the ligament has overstretched and is sort of loose, no longer giving the joint sufficient stability, which will affect the perfect movement of the wrist bones and potentially cause pain during wrist extension. To test for this, we do the Watson's test. Start with the palm facing down, ulnar deviated and slightly extended. The examiner puts his finger and maintains a firm pressure on the scaphoid on the palm side. The examiner then radial deviates and slightly flexes the wrist as such. If the examiner is able to push the scaphoid bone back easily and causes a clunking sound or reproduces pain, then there is instability and the test is positive. If the scaphoid pushes back on the examiner's finger, then it is negative and the wrist is not unstable. Treatment. Our goal is to help the wrist bones move correctly during wrist extension and improve stability. Flexor carpi radialis, extensor carpi radialis longus, flexor carpi ulnaris, and abductor pollicis longus. These tendons essentially stabilize the scapho-lunate joint and do this motion, the dart throwing motion. That is extension, radial deviation, and then flexion plus ulnar deviation. You combine that and you get the dart throwing motion. So to help the bones move properly, get some rigid tape, tape the scaphoid and lunate bone down, helping it glide down. Then we stabilize with exercise. Get either a long PVC pipe, a hammer, or a light weight. Rest your arm on a surface, then do this motion as I showed before. Start light and in shorter ranges. As it gets easier with time, you can give it more challenge and increase range. You can first start with isometric holds, eccentric, then concentric loading. You will feel these muscles along your radius working. This exercise is to be done 2 to 3 sets of 6 repetitions, 48 hours in between each session, for this is the time required for a tendon to recover. Then whenever you are not doing the exercise, you can tape your hand in this position with your wrist extended and radially deviated, keeping the wrist in its most stable position. Either that or just put a wrist brace on, allowing the wrist to heal in a stress-free environment. You can do this process for 2 to 6 weeks. After your wrist is more stable and no longer painful, then you can start doing some proprioceptive work. That will be to throw and catch balls or catch a weighted bag like this. Then you can progress to doing these with your eyes closed. However, if this doesn't work for you, or if you don't mind spending some money on your wrist, for problem 1, an occult dorsal ganglion cyst, you can consider seeing a doctor to get your wrist aspirated. That's where the doctor sticks a fine needle into your cyst and pulls the liquid out of the water balloon or the cyst. For problem 2, an attenuation or damaged scaphoid-lunate ligament causing some instability in the wrist, you can see a physiotherapist such as at Regen Sports and Physio Center if you live near Petaling Jaya, and get some advice on how to stabilize your wrist and remove that wrist pain of yours. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, and if you're from Kuala Lumpur or Klang Valley, please consider visiting sharehouse.com. It's a platform to support home businesses and buy homemade food and drinks.